Welcome back to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Autonomous cars are coming to Delaware sooner rather than later. Here to talk about that and all of the cutting-edge technology when it comes to transportation in the state is Ken Grant, Public and Government Affairs Manager at AAA Delaware. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about autonomous cars. Sure. Right now they're being tested in several states. Not in Delaware yet, right?
Not yet.
But you want that to happen?
I think Delaware is the perfect place to start testing some of this technology. We already have some really advanced studies happening at the University of Delaware to look at what it's going to look like when you have a mix of autonomous fleet vehicles with drivered cars. The Delaware Department of Transportation has laid the groundwork for a lot of systems that will help make autonomous vehicles run smoother and safer in Delaware. And it's interesting, unlike other states where you have several layers of government, a municipality, a county, on up to the state, Delaware is unique in that DelDOT really manages most of the roadways in the state.
So why aren't they here already?
It's a combination of things. It's just a matter of some areas where, for example, in Pittsburgh, you have Carnegie Mellon working closely with the city of Pittsburgh and doing some experimenting there. The state of Nevada has implemented rules and regulations to allow for more autonomous testing. Arizona is the only state that allows true autonomous vehicles. Anywhere else you go in the country, you can have the autonomous vehicle operating, but you need to have a human operator at least present. Arizona, the governor signed an executive order that says you don't need to have a person in the car.
Well, they're not driving at all in Arizona right now because they've closed down everything. We're taping this the day after there was an accident involving an autonomous vehicle. The first time there's been a fatality, I believe, and it was a pedestrian crossing the street. We were just talking about it before we started. Normally, when somebody gets hit by a car in a city somewhere, it doesn't make international news. But because there was an autonomous vehicle, it made news, and they've suspended the testing of these vehicles just about everywhere until they can figure out what happened. That's part of the problem, isn't it?
Well, and AAA fully supports the investigation that's happening as well as the kind of experimenting that has to happen to test vehicles in real-world situations. And we're still waiting to find the outcome of this particular investigation. Accidents are going to happen anytime you have new technology or even old technology. We're currently looking at an average of 35 to 40,000 people a year losing their lives on U.S. roadways due to various crashes. And the preliminary data that we're seeing with autonomous vehicles is once we have a fully autonomous fleet out there, we could look at cutting that number by anywhere from 70 to 90%.
But to get there, you've got to get beyond the fear of autonomous vehicles. And the media, because that's what we do, plays on that fear. We know that this is new, it's still brand new. So every time there's going to be an accident, every single time, you're going to hear about it in the news.
And every time there's been an advance in technology, and especially transportation technology, you have those sorts of scenarios happening. People were very afraid when the first automobiles were coming out and these horseless carriages that they couldn't quite wrap their minds around. And we're going to see that same sort of transition period happening here with autonomous vehicles. But our studies are also showing that the more people are exposed to the technology, experience the technology, the more accepting they are. For example, in Las Vegas, AAA has been running a self-driving shuttle in the downtown loop since November. Over 10,000 people have ridden it so far, and every one of them, I would say so far the rating system they're giving is the driver gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. In this case, that's the machinery that's operating with the city and operating in real-time traffic. And the people who are experiencing that are coming out saying, okay, we're willing to give this technology a try. Nationally, AAA has done surveys. Last year, 73% of people said that they were afraid of this technology. This year, it's down to 68%. I think we're going to continue to see those numbers drop as people become exposed to this more and more
often. Is there
often.
a point where you say, okay, we can go ahead with this? I mean, does it have to get the majority of people accept it?
I think we're going to see the technology kind of run things to an extent. We're seeing government saying we're going to work with the manufacturers and the technology providers to create the regulations around it to make sure that it's safe as we move forward. Everybody is concerned about safety. Every operator, every auto manufacturer, and this is a fun experiment to try. Think of an auto manufacturer anywhere in the world and look up to see if they're doing some kind of autonomous research or testing. And I've seen everything from obviously your major manufacturers in the US and Japan and Germany down to your very small manufacturers. The only two auto manufacturers I've found who are not looking at autonomous research is Ferrari and Lamborghini.
And you're smiling at that. Why?
They want people to have that driving experience. It's a whole different thing. And admittedly, those vehicles are not made for you to just get from home to office each day. They're
Well, it seems clear they're coming.
Experience.
People just have to get used to it, and it may take longer than we first thought.
It's depending on. It's interesting. Was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in January. And at the beginning of the week, everybody was asking the experts these questions: how soon before we see autonomous vehicles pretty much everywhere on the roadways? And at the beginning of the week, the estimates, my favorite line was, by the next time Halley's Comet comes around in 2061, we can expect to see it. By the end of the week, as everybody saw what everybody was working on, that same question was responded with, well, maybe next Tuesday.
All right, Ken, thank you so much.
Thanks
for coming in. Ken Grant, Public and Government Affairs Manager at AAA Delaware. When we come back, fighting the opioid crisis in Delaware. Christiana Care is involved heavily. They have a new partnership. We'll talk about it when the Delaware Way continues.